Hi, in this class we will delve a little deeper into sections that has multiple items. In previous classes we used a section called classes to organize and add classes for the character. This is one way of using a section with multiple items. Because a section with multiple items is something that the player can add to their character which has more than one item. For instance, he can have more than one class. But this can also and should be used for inventory. I am not only talking about physical objects, but feats, for instance, will be a multiple class section. Spells, known spells, weapons, armor, and so on. Now I will add a new table here, okay, an armor table, which has the armors in the game and the shield. This table will be used to create a section for armor. Well, you already know how to do this. Create section. Multiple items and a field, which is a table called armor, and armor, okay, and this is description, and we will add a second field which is magical bonus, which is an integer, and we add this here. I like to create a page for each multiple item. You don't need to do that. You can create an inventory page and add all inventory things here, but I like to create one page for each. Okay, we have it. Let's check this. Conorian, okay, now we have armor here. Okay, let's add armor to Conorian. I has chain shirt, no magical bonus, and oh, he also has studded leather +1 and perhaps a shield. He may have 2 armors within him, but he can only wear one of them at a time, and he can use the shield or not. Perhaps he's using a two-handed sword, and a two-handed sword cannot have a shield. First, we will add a new section called slots. It's what he is wearing right now. Here, I will put a field called armor. And this field is an inventory field of the section armor. How this works? He will be able to choose one of the armors that exist in his inventory in runtime. Let me put this section in the main section. Here, the slots section, okay. And also, I will put here a shield, okay, and an inventory. This is the section, also armor. So I reloaded Conorian, and now you see that we have 2 fields here, which points to their armor section. This is saved with the character, which reflects the current state of the character. This can be used for rings, for cloaks, for anything you want, really, okay? Even for weapons, if your RPG has the concept of which hand has each weapon. You can have a slot called right hand, and a slot called left hand, and so on. And since we have our armor and we know what armor we are wearing at some specific moment, we can have an info that will return our armor class. We went here and create an info, call it armor class. Okay, and it's a return integer. Now, the armor class will be 10 plus the dex modifier, but the dex modifier will be only added under certain circumstances, and one of those circumstances is the armor that the character is wearing. In our armor table, I created this field called AC, which is the armor class of that particular armor, okay, which already has the 10 added here. Here, we have the maximum dexterity that can be added when wearing this kind of armor. There are armors who would have no limit, there are armors who have a 2 limit, and there are armors who cannot add dexterity. So, if the character has no armor at all, we should get his dex and add 10. But to know if he has no armor, we need to access our armor field. Let's suppose that Conorian is not wearing any armor at all, like this. Okay, none. It's not wearing any armor. This field returns an inventory. It doesn't return the armor, it returns an inventory line, which may be nothing. And how can we test for none? Although main stat armor is not text, in this case we can compare this with specifically with none. You can put here equal none. This will return true if the inventory points nowhere. If he is not wearing any armor, I'll have to return value and add the dex ability modifier plus 10. However, if he is wearing an armor, I should get the armor that he is wearing. So we get this main stat here. Return value again. I have to duplicate this, not move. Again, this is an inventory, so I need an inventory node because now this inventory is pointing to something. And please remember, when you use an inventory field, you always have to test this for none because it can be none. So the field will be the armor, and now that I have the armor, this is the armor name, this is the inventory line. Now that I have the armor, I can access the table. Okay, now just put this, and we choose the armor. Look at this field, but we have now the inventory field here is the armor. Okay, this is the armor. Now we are accessing the armor table. We need to return the armor class, and the armor class is the field called armor class. Here. Now we have to add dexterity, but depending on the field that is called max dex. This is the maximum dexterity. We should use here a max field. We have to add dexterity, and the dexterity is the ability modifier dexterity. Now, this should work if the armor allows the dexterity, but we need to filter this to get the maximum value between the max dex field and the ability modifier. So we need a max node here, max node between the ability modifier and the table field that is the ability modifier. So you duplicate this here, but the table field here is max dex. Let's review this. We get the inventory and the armor field and access the table armor and get the field armor class. And we need to add dex, okay? And dex is the ability modifier. However, depending on the armor he's wearing, he has a maximum dexterity. Sometimes it's 0, okay? But we access the table field max dex. In the same way, we are accessing the AC field from main stat, inventory field, table field. And now we have our armor class. Well, I'm testing here and I made a mistake. I put a max node where I should put a minimum node. So I will add a minimum value here. Minimum value. The table field. The ability modifier. That's it. Now it should work. Save.